family?
That's correct.
All right.
I muted myself. That's correct.
Okay. All right. So then, because Region 18 is going to be something we need to vote on. Oh, I'm sorry. Did somebody say something? Sorry. So because Region 18 is something we'll need to vote on, we'll just put that aside for now until Bill is on the call so we can have a quorum. Number 3, I have to recuse myself from, and Evan, you conducted the site walk. So do you want to take this one?
Evan, at the site walk, we determined it would be issued as an administrative permit if that remains the same.
That was, I'm sorry. I thought you were in, of course, there were a couple of things, Rachel, sorry, that you were recusing yourself from. And so this is the one with a family affair, but
yes.
Let me say that I thought since it was basically maintaining a pond that was approved by a former Inland Wetlands Commission, that it should be an administrative permit. However, I did, after the fact, after the site walk, remind the commission and the Inland Wetlands Enforcement Agent that we do have a sort of a standing policy and procedure to maintain a vegetative buffer between whatever upland activities there are and the edge of the pond to capture any runoff, whether chemical or otherwise, that might enter the pond. So I'm hoping that will pertain to this permit.
That will be noted in the conditions that get sent to the applicant.
Good. Okay. Luckily, they have the chairwoman as a neighbor, so I'll be watching them closely.
You can keep an eye on them, Rachel. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. So I don't know if Bill is on. I see other people have called in. I don't know how we should.
I did phone Mr. Romeo, so he should be on. So I didn't want to know if you wanted to move on to 4 or.
We're here if you want to move on to us. The Romeos. This is Patrice Romeo. Sorry.
Sure.
I can tell the lighting's not good with a window in the back. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Lighting is dark. Okay. So why don't we move on to number 4 of new business, Alex Romeo for 62 Button Ball Road, clearing within the regulated area unpermitted. So Mr. and Mrs. Romeo, would you like to speak? I know we went to your property last week and saw the area.
So I had actually written a letter before you guys came, but then I just never got it out with all the craziness. Things have just been happening. But first of all, we want to apologize for adding something to your plate with all the crazy that's going on right now. It was certainly not our intention, and we apologize. We would have gone through the proper channels if we realized that it was something we couldn't do, and so we're sorry. So I wanted to just say that we were not looking to clear cut an area and turn it into any kind of wooded space or field. We were only looking to thin out some trees to make it possible for the remaining trees that were there to thrive. So our intention is and always has been for that space to remain wooded. That's what we expect it to be. That's the way we like it. Each storm, every season, we have trees and large limbs that come down. And so storm by storm, we clean up the problems that are made, and that's just what it's like living where we live. So we often thought that it would make sense to proactively deal with this rather than having to react tree by tree and storm by storm. But when everything started happening with COVID and we saw small businesses starting to struggle and, you know, kids that were trying to make businesses happen couldn't, we decided this was the time to do something. So we thought we could get rid of trees that weren't doing well, thin things out so that the trees that were there could thrive and support a young local business at the same time. So that's where we started from. So we went through the area. We looked for trees that had problems. We had those that were dead, dying, or dying at the top, were too close together. We tagged them and decided those would be the ones that would come down. We thought that it would help support the rest of the trees. There was no reason for us to do that in terms of any kind of gain. We weren't clearing anything to get a better view of anything. We weren't trying to make space to build anything. We weren't, you know, trying to create a space that wasn't going to be wooded from a space that was wooded. We were just we thought we were helping. So it wasn't our intention to do anything that was wrong, and we're sorry. So we value nature. We feel fortunate to live in the area we live in. We feel fortunate to enjoy as much of the nature as we get to in this area. We don't have any intention of ruining it. We actively try to support it by things we do on our property. And it was an innocent mistake and we apologize. So we just hope that you'll take that into consideration, where we were coming from and, you know, our intentions.
Yeah, I'd like to add, we have two areas of wetlands. Now that I've looked at the map that's on the town website, one is very obviously a wetlands and we haven't disturbed it. This area, I don't think to a layman is an obvious wetland. And that's why basically we thought we could just go ahead and cut trees on it.
Do you have any questions for us?
I have a question. This is Evan. I have just a question of whether the Romeos want to maintain the open understory, or whether they would think that having some sort of an understory in that area would be helpful, which I think from a wetland habitat would make sense, but obviously taking dead trees out of a wetland isn't going to make much difference in the water table. But I suspect that some of those trees were still alive and would, when the leaves come out, dry the area out to a certain extent. So unfortunately, any live trees that were taken out, you've taken out the pumps, and and the places and the area is going to be wetter than it was before. So that's one thing to consider. So if you want to go back and plant some attractive live trees, that would probably help in maintaining the area as not a standing water all the time.
Yeah, we had not actually thought of the repercussions that you're saying, so I didn't realize that would happen. The thought is that I would like to plant some, I've been wanting to put fruit trees in, so we're just kind of always looking for places, and it's a slow process with this much space and expenses and kids, but the hope is to put some trees in, and if you're saying that that would change, you know, would help the area, we might do that sooner than later.
Yeah, I think it would, and if you're trying to maintain some wildlife area on your property, that would some small trees would, and they really, whatever you plant doesn't have to be very big. They can be very small trees, and they'll grow faster than trying to plant bigger trees. So keep that in mind as well.
Thank you. Yes.
I saw another caller come in. Is that by any chance Bill?
Yes, it is.
Oh, hi, Bill.
Hi.
Bill, we are on number 4, Alex Romeo 62 Button Ball Road for the clearing within the regulated area that was unpermitted. So we're just having a discussion about that property right now. And Evan just was talking about maybe building, planting some understory or some other trees to help with the water table, because by cutting down the trees that were cut down in that area, now there's not going to be as many leaves pulling from the water table, and so that area is going to be increasingly more wet this season.
Okay.
I also agree with Evan, because I know when that amount of trees are taken out of a property, you're going to find it's going to be a much more mucky soil, and you probably won't be able to do things like mow or anything in that area. You're definitely going to come into some problems with tractors, regardless of size. So probably planting something would be to your benefit, but also the environment's benefit. Tom or Bill, do you have anything to add, or?
I think maybe for the next meeting, if Romeo's maybe want to bring in a list of kind of what they're looking for as far as a proposal, if whether they talk to a wetland scientist or even somebody in nursery that might be able to help them find some bushes that are going to thrive there, but also would kind of be what they're looking for. I think that might make sense.
That's a good idea.
So Tom, you're looking for some sort of restoration plan to be submitted.
I think that would make sense. That way Romeo's have some input on it, and it's not going to feel like we're trying to punish anybody if they have some input on what it ends up looking like, and we can find stuff that's available and will work well in the area.
Dan, do you have anything to say as our enforcement officer?
I guess just from the site walk and speaking with Tom, I didn't know if we wanted to address how they were going to remove the wood chips. Because I know there was concern with the tracked vehicle that it was going to tear the area up more. So I wasn't sure if you wanted to address that or see if the Romeos want to just explain that in the restoration plan, or how we should handle that.
I think if you're going to try to take them out, it would make sense to try to do it August, September rather than now, and probably would try to use a track steer or something that's not a rubber tired machine, but a track machine. Just so that something will grow those wood chips.
Yeah, I think Tom's right. You want to minimize the pressure per square inch on the soil, and wait for the soil to once the trees that are remaining start to do their work and pump water out of the soil, it'll dry out, and by August or September, it should be fine to go in there with some sort of tracked vehicle, even a little tracked bobcat or something would be helpful to just to thin out those wood chips, and maybe even just spreading them out would be a help, so that you could get some planting done in there.
Probably use some of them as mulch, ringing the bushes to retain moisture if you want to try to reuse some of them.
Right, and the wood chips eventually will rot down into soil themselves. So it's not, but you don't want them too thick, because anything you plant in there is going to thrive if the wood chips are a foot or two deep there.
There you go. So yeah, our plan was to move those wood chips, and then we stopped because, somebody said we needed to stop. And so we said, that's the end of everything. And so that's why they are like they are right now. So wasn't our
But
plan. but-
our neighbor has one of those machines that has it's almost like a rake on the back. I'm not sure what it's called. And he could
York rake.
Yeah, he could spread it out there and that's a fairly small machine. So
Yeah.
we could do that in September timeframe or fall timeframe.
I think that would be the best solution. And then if you get a planting list for little trees or shrubs that prefer a wetter soil, and there are plenty of those. I mean, some of them are very attractive, like some azaleas and things like sweet pepper bush, and very attractive and have they're flowering shrubs, and they're good for wildlife and very good for landscaping, and so you can get a nice planting list from any good nursery.
Okay.
Great. Well, I think that's a good way to move forward. And I believe we'll have a meeting next month, but it will also be over WebEx. And if any changes occur in that, we'll of course let you know. So Bill, do you have anything else to add before we move on
I would just obviously like to see a plan. I mean, even if it's a hand sketch, something that we could agree on.
Sure. Okay.
It's difficult to do that on the conversation on the phone.
Right.
We can work on that.
Sure. And if there's any problems, being able to speak to a nursery or to get a plan together, because obviously with COVID shutdowns, it's kind of hard to force people to leave their house. So if there's any problems, please just contact Dan or Kim Groves, who work at the town hall, and we'll be able to get that information to the rest of the commission.
Okay, thank you.
I could probably talk to Tom Degnan too. I see him quite often. So.
Okay.
Tom would be very helpful. He's a town tree warden and very knowledgeable. So I would ask Tom for his opinion on what to do.
Okay.
We will do that.
Great. Well, thank you so much. So Kim, do you need anything else for the record before we move on from this topic?
Nope, I'm all set. Thanks.
All right.
I'm good.
Thank you. Stay healthy.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right. So just for clarification purposes, we've already gone over new business numbers 1, 3, and 4. And I propose that we start back at the beginning with Region 18. The Lime Old Lyme Public Schools proposed field improvement to modify the playing geometry and playing surface from manicured lawn to synthetic turf. Do we have, I see a couple people just popped on. Hi. Can you please introduce yourself and your relation to the project?
Sure. I don't know who else from our group popped on, but my name is Kevin Fusilier. I'm a landscape architect with Mylona McBroom in Cheshire. With me is Megan Raymond. She's our senior project manager, environmental science. And I believe from the school, we have Ian Neviser, the superintendent. He should be on, and potentially Ronald Turner, the new facilities tech director. So this is the group that's been primarily working on this project. I started this project with John Rhodes in facilities over a year ago, and we're just slowly moving it along. Now I'm going to try to, there's Megan. Hi, Megan.
Hello.
I haven't done this yet, but I can share. I'm going to try sharing my screen. You'll probably see my name's up there twice. I have 2 systems running. So the plan was we're going to just walk through the project quickly, tell you the nuts and bolts of it, and then open it up for questioning. All right, so I think everyone can see that. So we're just starting with the Google aerial. of the Old Lime School campus on Lime Street. The field we are talking about is the rear field north of the baseball field on the east side of campus, alongside the Duck River. And that is the watercourse and wetlands that we will be talking about with this project. So it's this larger, odd shape, non-traditional shape field at the back of the campus. So what the school wants us to do is we want to turn a natural grass athletic field. Is it not coming up? Is everyone seeing the rendering? So the proposal is to convert an existing natural grass field to synthetic turf. The school has two nice natural grass fields closer to the main buildings. This is kind of the leftover field. They have a tough time maintaining natural grass on it year round. It's pretty mucky, I guess, in the spring and the fall when athletes want to get on it. They use it for pretty much every sport, but primarily lacrosse. But the field is large enough to accommodate lacrosse, soccer, field hockey. And what we're proposing is just two little practice areas for baseball and softball, because those sports have the most difficult time in the spring dealing with wet weather. So to have synthetic turf will allow them to play even when grass fields are unplayable. So there's a big advantage going to a synthetic turf system. They get a lot more use out of it, and again, all weather use. Some of the elements in the field, it'd be surrounded by a perimeter chain link fence, 4 foot high. We are calling for ball safety netting behind goal areas to prevent balls from going outside the playing surface, into the wetlands, into the water courses. So there's limited netting that will be around the field. The field itself is installed with a flush concrete curb all the way around the edge of the field. This serves as a fence mow line for the outside, but also an anchor point for the synthetic turf carpet. Just switch over to the plan set. Okay, so this is the submitted set that we submitted with the inland wetlands application. That just gets more into the details.
Interesting.
Again, this is the existing site, basically a lot of topographic survey, so we understand the shape of the land out there and what earthwork needs to be done. We conducted test pits out there to understand what the soils are like. Typically, it's about a foot of topsoil with at least another foot of a good sandy, free draining layer underneath, which we're very happy about. Megan went into the field, flagged the wetland limits. We have the 100-foot upland review buffer in there, and we do have impacts within the upland review. Typical layout plan showing some of those elements I described in the rendering. We are not increasing the footprint of this field. This field will actually be a little smaller than the limits of turf grass they have out there now, but we are just giving it a more formal structure and dimensions that we can fit regulation playing fields in. You can see it leaves a few areas of lawn area now that would be outside the limits, and we're proposing doing some enhancement plantings there that would be native wetland specific type plantings, just to fill in these gaps and make it so there really doesn't have to be any maintenance beyond the limits of this turf field. What also I should point out here is this detention pond at the south end of the site. We're very fortunate to have that right there at the field. I believe that was constructed when the running track was constructed, but we will have under drain systems in a turf field. As I mentioned, turf fields are meant to evacuate water from the surface very quickly. And so it will have an outlet tied into that detention pond. However, based on the cross section of the turf field, the free draining stone we put in it, the non-restrictive geotextile fabric at the bottom, and then the existing sandy soils, we feel really good that a lot of the water that goes through the turf surface will just go into the ground and not put a burden on this detention pond. But it is fortunate to have it right there, so less infrastructure needs to be put in place. We have a typical grading plan. Synthetic turf fields are a lot flatter than a natural grass field because, again, we're not relying on the surface for runoff. We're doing it all below the surface. So we'll be excavating the topsoil, the organic material off-site. We'll be reshaping the existing sandy subsoils, and then we'll be building on top of that. This is a under drain plan. So it's a series, it's built like a golf course putting green. You have a series of flat drains that are on the subgrade. So when the water gets through, if it doesn't go through the subsoils, it will get collected into these drains, which then go to a perimeter drain system that's around the outside. And then we tie into that detention pond. Sediment erosion controls, all on along the south and east side. We'll have hay bales, silt fence protecting the wetlands. The good thing about excavation, again, for a synthetic turf field, we're really creating a bowl. So once the mass earthwork has initiated, it's very difficult to get runoff off the site, but our engineers have designed a full plan for S&E controls. So I went back to the grading plan. This is where we point out our regulated activities. The hatch might be a little light to see, but we have 2 areas where we encroach into the upland review area. There are no direct impacts to the wetlands, but we do have activities such as earth removal, grading, some fencing, some concrete work that's occurring in 2 sections of the upland review. So at the north end and then along the east and southeast side. And the total looks, it's about 29,000, say 30,000 square feet of upland review activity. And then the remainder of our drawing set is typical details, S&E control details, the hay bales, wattles, filter fence, construction entrance, tracking pad, and then just typical construction details showing the anchor curb, the perimeter drainage, the 1 storm manhole structure, our drainage trench, and a typical cross section of the field. This is more just fencing and line striping for the artificial turf. Now with that, I just reviewed that. I'm sorry, just checking my notes. So again, we're not changing the footprint of the field. We're not making it any bigger. We're actually making it smaller. We don't propose any impacts to the existing vegetation line, to the tree line. We're utilizing the existing drainage basin. Oh, and one big question that always comes up, there's no lights being proposed. So we're not lighting this field. We probably will put in infrastructure for future electrical needs. So just empty conduit, pull strings, hand holes around the outside, but no light poles, no light foundations, no electrical service of any kind at this time as part of this project. Megan, would you like to say anything about the wetlands?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Megan Raymond. I'm a professional wetland scientist and registered soil scientist. And as Kevin described, I delineated the wetlands out on the wetland system adjacent to the proposed field improvements, field redevelopment. Essentially, as we described in our field walk last Tuesday, the wetland area is comprised of the Duck River riparian corridor, which exists to the eastern east of the project area. It's a mixed class wetland with a forested system in the southern portion of the wetland, and then the Duck River's impounded and created a pond in the northern portion of the delineated wetland area. To that, as you saw in Kevin's plan, there are a few areas of upland review activity, one of which along the northern boundary of the field improvements, and that area is a small ditch that conveys some storm water as well as some groundwater discharge to the Duck River pond. So in looking at the project within the context of the functions that those wetlands provide, we're not looking at any potential diminishment of the existing wetland functions within that delineated corridor. We're looking at a redevelopment project that's going to be confined to the existing footprint of the manicured lawn field. And we focus then on potential impacts that may be derived from stormwater, increased stormwater runoff, which we're addressing through the robust infiltration system, and then secondary water quality treatment in your detention basin to the south. Potential impacts that may result temporarily during construction. Those would be addressed through the sedimentation and erosion control, the manner by which the field will be created in terms of creating of that bowl, and then immediate top dressing of stone really minimizes potential vectors for temporary impacts as it relates to sedimentation and erosion control. So we look at all of these features in as a whole in continuum and relate them to the existing functions of the wetland, the vegetation associated with the wetland, the hydrology that supports that wetland, and we're not seeing any conflict between these. The proposed project will not result in any adverse impact to the adjacent wetland system. We do have an opportunity in a couple of areas to enhance that riparian buffer through the removal of manicured lawn in favor of some native plantings, likely select native shrubs in those locations, perhaps silky dogwood or maybe some sweet pepper bush that would just enhance that shrub strata a bit. But we are very pleased to work on this project for Region 18. And unless Kevin has anything further, I think we'd like to conclude our presentation and turn it to the questions. Thank you very much again.
No, I'm okay. I did get a note that both Ron and Ian are on. I told them to chime in if they want to say anything. But we're here to answer your questions. And I can bring up any graphic if you want to see it again. Just let me know which one.
Okay, great. Thank you. Does anyone from the commission have any questions or comments about the plans that we just saw and that we saw on the site walk last week?
Yeah, I had a question. This is Evan Griswold, and I guess this is geared for Megan. Do you have any input on what or data on what the difference between a grassy field and a turf field in terms of the heat of the runoff? You got a hot summer day, and my guess is that turf heats up pretty well, and whatever underlayment there might be underneath, and whether the detention pond is going to, what mitigation there is on heated water going into the wetland and into the Duck River, which obviously is going to, if we are putting a significant amount of heated water into the river, that's going to affect the biome and reproductive systems in the water columns.
Sir, I'd be pleased to answer that, Evan. Again, Megan Raymond, professional wetland scientist, for the record. You know, we're in fields such as these, and we've looked at this quite a bit. I'm involved in a number of turf field projects, and as a wetland scientist, we do want to get at really understanding disturbance vectors and potential vectors. And what we're looking at with these artificial fields is there's a great deal, if you maybe look at the cross section, there's a great deal of substructure to the fields that promote and encourage infiltration. So the actual outlets that are going to be correct, the runoff that's collecting in these perimeter pipes and would be conveyed to the detention basin would only occur in extreme storm events, to the point where we're not seeing water that's going to be sitting and heated and pooled. It's not as though we're looking at you know, something coming off a tin roof, or you know, a kind of I'm not even quite sure if that would be the increased thermal. We're looking at a really disassociated treatment train, to the point where we're not looking, if you were to measure the temperature of outfall, you're not going to see a measurable difference. As it relates to as it compares to the manicured lawn system as it exists now, obviously it is different, because there's no other than the perimeter drains along the toe of that embankment at the edge of the field. There's not, I don't believe that field as it exists in the manicured situation has collector drains. Some of them do, but this one does not, with the exception of the perimeter. So it is a different shift in that we are promoting and proposing stormwater management, but we're going to be encouraging infiltration with water quality treatment only in the episodic, the low frequency, high intensity events, to the point where you're not going to see thermal impacts.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that. We at my Lone McBroom years ago, when synthetic turf fields started becoming pretty popular, we did studies on heat because heat is an obvious issue with turf fields. We're talking about a whole lot of plastic, and it's not even just the particles into the plastic. The plastic itself reflects a lot of heat. So we just did general testing on temperatures, and yes, on a sunny day, these fields are hotter than natural grass. But on a really hot day, sometimes natural grass is too hot. But what we found in our study was when there was just in a little bit of cloud cover blocking the sun, the temperature drops rapidly on a synthetic turf field. So it's not absorbing the heat, but it's really reflecting it when the sun is out. And then also, as Megan said, you know, these fields are being built on at least 8 inches of free draining basalt or granite stone. And when the water's traveling through that, it'll lose any heat that it's holding as well. So you get the cloud cover from the rain event, you get the cooling rain, and you have the cool substructure of the turf. Again, all the heat's at the top. We just haven't seen any issues with runoff temperatures.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions from commission members?
I think I'm all set. I don't have any questions, I don't think.
Great. Bill?
None here. None here.
Okay. And I have no questions either. Your presentations to this commission have been incredibly thorough, so thank you for that and for always having answers to our questions. All right, so are there any conditions on this permit that anybody wants to discuss, or are you guys ready to move forward as is in the application?
Rachel, this is Evan again. I'm just wondering if it's a small piece of this, but there's a bituminous concrete walk at the northeast corner of the property, and I'm wondering if that can be made into some sort of permeable surface rather than a permeable, because it's certainly within the review zone, and it would seem to me preferable if that were a gravel walk or even a permeable surface of some sort.
This is Kevin from My Lone McBroom. I don't see that as a problem. That location is currently kind of the maintenance access where they bring the mowers in.
Right.
I think we look at something other than a gravel, just because the gravel will tend to migrate into the synthetic turf and become a maintenance and a hazard issue. So maybe like a reinforced turf stone, like those gridded blocks, might be a good option. It's such a small area, I wouldn't want to try pervious asphalt or pervious concrete. So I think maybe those reinforced blocks might be the best option.
Okay. Well, just a thought to increase the infiltration rather than creating more runoff.
No problem with that.
Okay. So would anybody like to make a motion on this application?
I'll make a motion to approve with the pavers.
Okay, and can I have a second? I'll second it if nobody else is going to say anything. Okay, and all those in favor, Bill, are you in favor?
Yes.
Okay, Evan, are you in favor?
Yes, I vote aye.
Okay, and then Tom and I can assume we're in favor, right? Yeah. All right, so the motion passes 4-0. Kim, do you need anything else from us for the record?
No, Rachel, I'm all set. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, thank you so much to everyone who joined us on that application.
Thank you
so much.
Stay healthy. Bye.
You too, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, so skipping around again to number 5, which is application 20-09, Old Colony Beach Association for the sewers and associated improvements. As I have said plenty of other times on this application, because of the nature and the clients in my law firm being some towns that are going to be involved in this sewer application, I am unable to participate in this discussion, so I will put myself on mute, but I'll still stay here just so I know when I have to be back. So Tom, do you want to take this over for me?
I think if we want to start the presentation on what the application involves, we'll go from there.
Okay, can everyone see and hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, for the record, my name is James Otis. I'm a licensed professional engineer from Fuss & O'Neill in Manchester, Connecticut, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, the Old Colony Beach Club Association, to give a very brief overview of the wetland application, which I think was submitted back in January. Essentially, the project involves the installation of some sanitary sewer gravity mains within existing roads, and I'll put a graphic up in a few minutes. Private roads in the association, as well as sanitary sewer laterals to the property line, a short distance from the edge of the road. There will be some storm drainage improvements at the south end of the association, but those are down gradient of and far away from any wetland review areas that the commission regulates. And finally, there will be a proposed bioxide facility for odor control located at the north end of Gorton Avenue, and I'll put some graphics up here to kind of walk you through that. But before I do, I will point out that there are no direct impacts to any wetlands or watercourses as a result of the proposed activities. We're here tonight because there are two segments of the project that are located within 100 feet of an inland wetland or watercourse. So I'm going to hit the share screen and I'll see what happens here. All right, can everyone see my screen? You do not see my screen?
I don't.
Okay, let me see. Hold on. Oh, no.
The only thing I have is the participants list on the right-hand side that changed.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's, let's see, it's giving me a few choices here. Your entire screen, it doesn't seem to be working very well, so I'm going to cancel that. Let's see, we can't display your shared content. Make sure you've allowed permission to share content. So someone needs to allow permission, that you've allowed permission.
You should have permission. I didn't do anything different for you than I did with the prior applicant.
All right, still no luck? I'll just describe this verbally for if it's not coming up for some reason. So essentially, the project involves the installation of about 7,500 feet of gravity sewer within the Old Colony Beach Club area. Only about 340 feet of that 8-inch PVC gravity sewer is located within a 100-foot setback area of the inland wetlands at Sheffield Brook, and those wetlands are located east of Gorton Avenue between Maple Avenue and I'm trying to read my own map here, bear with me. Looks like Brothel Avenue, Brothel. And so unfortunately, you can't see the screen, but Sheffield Brook passes within 100 feet of Gorton Avenue. So the 100-foot setback area overlaps Gorton Avenue between Maple and a segment 300 feet north of the Maple Avenue, Gorton Avenue intersection. And as an aside, I apologize for missing the commission on Tuesday. I was actually parked in front of 43 Gorton Avenue, which is the only segment of sanitary sewer in the main portion of Old Colony Beach Club Association that's within 100 feet of an inland wetland. At the other end, at the north end of Gorton Avenue, north of Route 156, Gorton Avenue continues to the north, and we are proposing to put in a small segment of pipe in the roadway, just like the sanitary sewer. The bioxide system, which is depicted on the site plans in the application, which I'm unable to share for some reason, depicts 220 feet of half-inch pipe in a 2-inch casing sleeve, and then 70 feet of 3-inch electrical conduit, which is located under and in Gorton Avenue. And so those electrical conduit and bioxide drain pipe are located again within previously disturbed roadbed material within 100 feet of the wetlands, but they're not actually in the wetlands or disturbing any wetlands. Best management practices discussed in the application, first and foremost, avoidance of the wetlands. There are no direct impacts to the wetlands. And the plans do depict hay bales, silt fence, dewatering bags, frac tank, if necessary, for dewatering wastewater, seed and mulch. And that's the overview. Again, I apologize for not being able to share my screen for some reason. We are in receipt of a letter from the town engineer, and we're happy to speak to those issues if you have any questions. I think that's it.
Yeah, I don't see anything.
Metcalf, are you on? I know that Tom was looking to call in. I had just talked to him. I wasn't sure if he had made it on.
Dan, can you hear me?
We can, Tom.
Okay. I'm in then.
All right, great. Did you have any input on the project that you wanted to share?
I believe, hopefully you've all had an opportunity to see the letter that I got off, and I apologize for the lateness of it, if you will. But, you know, in looking at the plans, I think Jim, you know, summarized it fairly well. You know, there's no activities in the wetlands. The activities that are in the upland review area are within the roadway, and my feeling is, from a wetlands perspective, you know, don't pose any threat. The only thing that I think is important, and Jim noted this, is that erosion control measures be implemented and adhered to, and if there is any dewatering, that it not be directed directly into any storm drains or into the wetlands. And again, there's notations on the plan to that effect. It's just a matter of making sure that the contractor follows those procedures.
I mean, I think the key is going to be just to make sure that that Dan goes and make sure that the dewatering measures are getting all the salt out of the water is reasonable. And I mean, you can't really end up meeting. You can't really specify exactly what has to get done because you don't know what the soils are going to be like, and you don't know how much water there's going to be. So I think it's going to be just adjust on as needed, and just make sure that the Dan keeps an eye on it, and we make any changes that that need to get made throughout the job.
Yes, and very quickly, one of Tom's comment, and we agree, and it's already incorporated, we've incorporated in previous contracts, is that the Old Line Wetland Enforcement Officer be invited to the pre-construction meeting that includes the site contractor and the project engineer and the owner's representative, so that the town is involved before the work begins and can review the scheduling and the inspection scheduling and the erosion control measures that are being placed before work begins. So, we certainly agree with that and incorporate that or include that in our specifications as a matter of course.
Yeah, I'd like to ask what do you anticipate, what time of year that the work would be done? If is it going to be in the summertime? The only reason I ask is that a lot of pretty heavy rain events happen in summer thunderstorms, and it would be helpful if there was somebody keeping an eye on the erosion control during events like thunderstorms and hurricanes and so forth.
Yeah, I think the schedule will be determined in part by the Connecticut Department of Environmental Protection's permit conditions. They're currently reviewing flood management certification application and the coastal resources general permit application. And the Army Corps is reviewing a submission as well. And oftentimes those agencies impose a seasonal restriction. Typically, hopefully late summer, early fall is when the work would occur. Most of this work is right in the middle of the roads. It's a sanitary sewer going down pretty much the middle of the road. But obviously the roads are narrow, and in the summer there are a lot of people in the community. So we don't have a particular month in mind or months in mind quite yet. It would be during the normal construction season as tempered by environmental requirements imposed by the state and the.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
Does anybody else have any other concerns that need to be addressed?
No, I think it looks pretty straightforward to me.
Nope, I'm just listening.
And I didn't see anything really that was much of an impact on the odor control facility. That was all appeared pretty minor to me. So I guess since Rachel has to recuse herself, I don't think we have enough people to make a motion anyways.
I think you can still make a motion. I'm just like that outlier out there because we have a quorum,
okay.
Right?
So it would just be just 3 voting members, okay? All right, that's good. I would make a motion to approve the application on the condition that Dan is involved with the pre-construction meeting and then just does periodic checks on making sure that the erosion control measures are in place and the silt erosion control is in place as far as the dewatering goes.
Okay, I'll second that. That's Evan.
I will second for you.
I'm yes as well.
Okay, well, that would be all 3, so unless there's any other discussion, the motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you.
Kim, did you get everything you needed from us on that one? Kim?
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'll be okay. I have one
Okay.
question though. Dan, are you gonna want Tom out there as well, or? Okay, he's fine.
I just always
Good,
want to
Rachel.
check in with you, Kim, before we move on, since I can't see you.
Sorry.
know,
Yeah. No.
I'm-
Sorry. Yeah. No. I can. I don't think Tom's necessary. I think I can do the erosion controls and do watering without him. If I have any questions, I will certainly reach out.
Okay.
Okay, we're good. On to Old Lyme Land Trust.
Okay, so that's application 20-10, Old Lyme Land Trust on 4 Mile River Road, across from the transfer stations, the installation of 2 footbridges. And I think Ian was on this call. Are you still here, Ian?
Yes, I am. Patiently waiting.
So we received your packet with all the photos that Dan took from his hike on the trail, and then also the renderings of what kind of footbridges you were looking for. But would you care to explain for the record what Old Lyme Land Trust is looking to do?
Yeah, for the record, it's Ann Gallagher, and I'm representing the Old Lyme Land Trust Board of Trustees. And what we are proposing is to construct 2 fairly simple footbridges across 2 water crossings on our upper 3 Mile River Preserve. We're proposing that they be about 3 feet by 16 feet, so set just high enough to not impede the water flow, which is presently happening as frustrated patrons are trying to cross the streams, and keep people's feet dry and hopefully not impact the surrounding area of the streams. Ideally, I think for cost and durability reasons, we had proposed to make the planking on these footbridges of pressure-treated lumber just so that it would last longer. But we're open to the commission's conditions or suggestions there.
Okay, this is Evan, and Ann, as I mentioned before, I'd rather not see any pressure-treated lumber sunk into the soil, just because it has a propensity to affect the soil and the vegetation around it, and maybe the water quality. But I understand that Jim Mildren is going to be helping with doing this, or is that not true?
No, I don't believe so. I have not spoken to him about this project. I think he's pretty tied up with others at the moment. And we have a willing volunteer here. I guess that's why I'm kind of eager to move on.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I ask, and I'll talk to you later privately, but I have some black locust lumber logs that could be used either milled or just used as is for the risers for the posts.
Yeah. And I think we have cedar, possible cedar or something too. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to donate some black locust to this project, just to make sure that pressure-treated lumber doesn't get into the soil.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that's not a conflict of interest.
I don't think so.
Well, we're just taking it off their hands, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
So does anyone else have any questions? I mean, my understanding of the project is that it's very low impact. It's really what we see on a lot of hiking trails in the area when we're going over small brooks and creeks. But did anybody have any further questions on the placement of the bridges? You saw in the packet, there were 2 bridges on that are in 2 separate wetlands, but we are accepting this as one application because it is on one property.
My only question is with the did the application come in time to make a decision at this meeting, or do we have to wait for the next meeting?
Yes, no, she got it in time, so Kim was able to forward us everything before today's meeting.
Okay. There's no 10-day limit or anything like that. But
off the top of my head, no. I think she just we had indicated to Anne at the site walk that as long as she got it in by Tuesday morning, that we would be able to post everything and make it available.
Okay. Not that I'm trying to hold anybody up or anything. It's just I'd like to know what the rules are. So if nobody objects, I'll make a motion to approve the 2 bridges, and that as long as and stipulate that the posts that support these bridges are made of a material other than pressure treated lumber.
Okay, great. Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, that's Bill.
I'll second.
Great, thanks, Bill. Okay, and
I'm sorry?
all those in favor, Tom, are you in favor?
Aye.
If I can click on mute, yes, I am.
Okay, great. So that motion was passed 4-0. And Kim, do you have everything you need on that one?
Yes, I do.
Great. Okay. So that is our agenda for tonight. Thanks everyone for bearing with us with all the WebEx and technical difficulties that COVID has brought upon us. Dan, thanks for setting all this up, and Kim for also helping with that and taking our meeting minutes. Now, are there any other questions or comments or any other business we should be aware of before we conclude this meeting?
Rachel, this is Ann Gallagher again. I just had one question. I had submitted a letter to you on another matter, just asking for the Commission's written guidance regarding permissions to breach beaver dams or build water control devices, and I just wanted to affirm that you've received that.
When did you send that, Ann?
Oh, probably a week or so ago, via the website, I think it was.
So the funny thing is I don't have access to the website email. So Kim can provide, well, I can provide you with my email. So my personal email is RN as in Marie. Oh, sorry, Kim, are you never mind. So my personal email is RM as in
Did you
Marie.
just want us to forward that to the whole commission rather than you give out your personal email on?
Yes, that would be perfect. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah.
I know. I know sometimes my personal email is out there, but just for the record, I do work at a law firm. I don't check my personal email during the day. So I usually get back to that at night or on weekends.
I already gave Ann your personal email today.
Oh, okay. So I didn't receive anything.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that, Kim. So if I have that,
okay. But it would be best to forward that to the whole commission. So if you ever send anything to me, of course, I'll be forwarding it to the whole commission.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought I was doing when I went on the commission's website. I think the only link for contact was your name came up, but
I've already sent it to you.
Okay, great.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm glad I asked. I just wanted
Yes, no, I'm glad you did.
a question about the process on the footbridges. So will we get a certificate and then I can just talk to Mr. Griswold about his proposed donation, and then is there any other procedural aspects I guess we have to go through?
A permit will be sent to you, and it will also be advertised in the paper. So you won't get anything for a couple of days, and you won't have the go ahead for at least 15.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
And we'll need a zoning permit too, just to let you know.
Okay.
It's really just kind of process-wise that it'll get approved.
So I have to apply for that as well?
Yes.
Oh.
So once your wetland appeal period is over, you can just, well, I'll just walk you through it. It'll be real quick on the town website.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Thank you. I don't want to hold you guys up. I can confer with you maybe later on in the process. So thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we adjourn the meeting? All right.
No, I think I'm all set.
Great.
You need a motion to adjourn?
I sure do, Evan. Can you help me out?
Okay. I so moved.
Anybody want to second that?
I'll second.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Bill, I'm assuming you're okay with that.
Aye.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for bearing with us on WebEx, and I hope everyone stays safe and healthy.
Okay. Thanks, Rachel.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.